following podcast is recorded and produced by Emerge, a media creators co-op, in affiliation with the network at bicbp-radio.com.
Welcome back to the Next of Kin podcast. I'm your host, Rich, joined by my son, Christian.
What's up?
How are you today?
All right. I'm tired.
You're always tired. Mm-hmm. So, a little change in me. I'm not wearing glasses anymore, as you well know. I got the smile procedure, which is like the new version of LASIK, which is confusing to me because smile doesn't seem like, I feel like they ripped it off from like a dental procedure. Like smile seems like something that should be like a dental procedure, not an eye procedure. But it was a lot of fun, except for Saturday when my light sensitivity was through the roof. So we purposely didn't do much. Yeah, lots of fun. So this week we are going to be talking about the Wakanda Forever trailer that just popped out today, as well as Andor at the very end, although we don't have too much about that. And we're going to talk a little bit about Lord of the Rings, Rings of Power TV series, as well as our update on House of the Dragon. So, but let's get right into the concept, talking a little bit about the trailer. So, they dropped a new Wakanda Forever trailer. Movie's coming out November 11th, which I think is Veterans Day. And so, you know, you saw it, and then immediately the internet blew up and stuff like that. So, what were your first impressions on it?
I was a big fan of the first trailer that came out. I think that was at Comic-Con, I think, was when the first one came out. Yeah. And that one was a bit more kind of focused on, like, I think, like, Chadwick and, like, this passing almost. And, like, it was, like, the portion of the movie that was going to be, like, kind of that. Whereas this one was a bit more story-focused into, like, the actual, like, what this movie is going to be beyond it, like, the tribute nature of it as well.
Yeah, I definitely feel like there's at the beginning of the film, there's going to be some kind of explanation of what happened to T'Challa, and then obviously how it affects them, the world. I think, like, you know, there was obviously some imagery in the trailer that looks really kind of poignant, and I think that they really did.
Not a very typical Marvel trailer.
No, not
like
at
neither
all.
of these trailers for this movie have been. But I also don't think, given the context behind the scenes for this movie, I think that Ryan Coogler, the director, probably has been given at least a lot more freedom to kind of make the story that he needs to make for one, to honor, like, the legacy of, like, Chadwick, and then also to make sure that this movie can succeed without him, like, because he was a major player in, like, why the first one worked so well as well. So
no, definitely, I think that
like, this movie's
this is two movies.
It's 2 hours and 40 minutes long.
There's two movies here. There's a segment in the film that has to be. It might only take 10 minutes, but there's definitely going to be a reoccurring theme without this film. I think the loss of the character, as well as, obviously they're not going to reference the actor except in a memorial, whatever.
Because they do have a lot to do. You have to address, like,
it could be a plot point too.
No, it will be.
It's going to be a major plot point.
Yeah, that character's absence will be a major. We can see from the trailer that it's going to be a, like, significant plot point. So you have that internal thing that everyone has to deal with. So it's like they have a physical threat, which is, like, the Namor, which we get our first, like, really clear look at.
So he's
in this trailer.
He's kind of their version.
And that dude is like so comic, like accurate.
He
like shirtless, got the, like, literally is the wings on the ankle thing right out of the comics.
Ankles,
like,
got the kind of the elf ears looking thing.
Yeah, they've said he's gonna be a mutant again, like like in the comics as well. So
yeah, I think that this is kind of the beginning of some of the stuff that we're gonna start linking in some.
Also, I think he's gonna be very. He's not gonna be evil by any means. Like, whatever his, like, fight's gonna be, it's gonna be, like, very, like. It's gonna be like there's gonna be, like, a level to it that we can understand, I think.
Right. Yeah. I feel
because
like
Namor's a hero. He's a hero in the comic. Like, he goes back and forth.
So do you think by the end of the film he's going
Namor
to be an
will
ally?
be long term Namor? Because I can't imagine that Namor isn't going to be around Namor might even get a film at some point if he's popular enough.
Well, if this film does well.
Because they even said, like, I fully expect, because they've already said that a lot of, like, because they're not calling it Atlantis. That I forget exactly what. It's some Mayan or, like, Aztec, like, myth.
Right.
So it's going to be that in, like, that aspect, that culture. So it's supposed to be, like, a similar thing of maybe, like, the highlight of, like, African culture. But this time it's, like, for a different thing with the villain. So it's going to be, like, we get a second Wakanda in this.
So a couple things. Do you think that this is going to have something to do with the reference to in Infinity War or Endgame when they said, there's an earthquake under the ocean?
I doubt it. I think there's going to be something. I assume it's vibranium related.
Okay.
Like that. I assume that either they have, because there's that boat we keep seeing in the trailers.
Yep.
Like that one that gets like attacked by like, it just looks like humans or whatever.
Right.
And so I don't know if that is like, there's some thought that that's like humans looking for vibranium in the ocean, and that could like cause an issue with that. And then. So they think that at the center of it could be like Riri Williams, who's supposed to be like a child genius. She has one of the Iron Man suits, which we see a lot of. Let's
get to that in the trailer in a second. But so like in
but
my
she
mind,
could be at the center of,
let me back this up. So before you go any farther, like so in the comics, this character is not evil. But he is going to be fighting for something. He's fighting for his people.
Like this is a common story. Atlantis versus Wakanda is very common in like I think he's flooded Wakanda.
But is he also? Do you think he's coming out partially because the threat to his people?
I assume like his people are threatened in some way, and I think there was also some thought that maybe Riri Williams like is smart beyond just like building Iron Man suits, and maybe found ways to
let's get into that.
Like detect vibranium, and maybe they found another deposit that's like not. Only
so
in
before
Wakanda,
we get to the Iron Man piece of it, like there's a bunch of other things going on in the trailer, celebrations and things like that, and a lot of stuff that's going to kind of harken to the culture of Wakanda. But then they obviously get into some point where it's going to be something to do with the replacement of Black Panther. That they have to replace. They have to find a new Black Panther.
As well.
And then it seems like a lot of the characters that are in there, obviously we see a new version of the suit, which is at the very end of the trailer. But before we even get to that, I guess, so then you said, talk about a little bit now. Clearly at one point there is an iron suit, this Iron Heart? No,
Iron Heart.
Iron Heart, and this character is what? Who's this character?
Riri Williams, I think is the name. I forget. Dominique Thorne, I think is maybe.
Okay.
That just popped into my head. That could be completely wrong.
Okay.
But
let's focus on
she's younger. I think in the comics, she's like from the same era as like Miss Marvel.
So
Miles
at one
Morales.
point, at one point, Marvel tried to. Marvel
early
wanted
2010s.
Yeah, Marvel wanted to kind of find like youth versions of characters,
like youth kind
and
of,
also
like,
minority versions of characters.
With,
they
like
tried
versions
to do some
of like secondary
stuff.
versions of like main heroes, Captain Marvel, all these sort of people, and they're younger, kind of. And they did a whole. A lot of them were LGBT. A lot of them were minority and stuff like that. Just to doing a new take on it, to give that story, that character to more.
So does this character have any Iron Man tech, or is it just she's invented it herself?
She builds the first one herself. In the comic, she is, as far as I'm aware, I don't know too much about her character.
Right.
Beyond that, she's one of the lesser liked ones compared to like say Miss Marvel or like a Miles Morales.
Miles Morales, yeah. Some of the other ones.
But she's usually not connected to Wakanda at all. So like I think that's smart that they've connected, and that makes sense. I think because I imagine that she might be through like that Wakanda, like system. You remember that thing that they went to like I think it was Oakland or whatever at the end of the first one.
Oh, okay.
And they set up like all the different like Wakandan like science center centers. And stuff.
That would make a lot of sense.
So I think that would make sense if like she was if like Shuri was like even somewhat like tutored kids or like was occasionally would visit stuff and then like found like a really special
and that leads
kid.
to the legacy of
and I think
Shala.
they could protect her and she might even be the one that makes like the tech if it is about vibranium. She'll be the one that finds like to find it or whatever like and then Wakanda might either way like Wakanda is going to probably get in the middle of like the humans and Namor is what I think is what it's going to be like. Even though Wakanda is in a situation where like Wakanda used to be, like as a hidden sense of like not really knowing, them even more so because they didn't even know, like nobody knew this new underwater civilization existed at all. So whereas at least Wakanda,
So what did you
everyone
think
thought
of the
they were
underwater
sheep herders.
stuff? What did you think of the underwater footage?
I like the underwater stuff I've seen thus
I liked
far.
it awful lot.
I always said that I thought like that tech. Well, I said it a couple weeks
You
ago.
said it
that
a couple
I think
weeks
the
ago,
tech
yeah.
from Avatar probably branched out and they got like.
Yeah,
It doesn't
stole
look
it.
as good as Avatar. I don't
It's
think,
all the
but,
same
like,
company at this point.
But
I
yeah,
mean, they're
exactly.
all
They're
using
sharing
the
that
same
tech.
And I feel like it looked really good. Like
But also,
it had
I think
that
it's less.
kind of.
But also, I think they're smart to realize that we don't need it all to be under.
I don't want the whole movie to be underwater. That's just
like they're not doing the Aquaman
because
thing.
the other characters.
And also, he's the villain.
The other
He's
characters
not, like,
don't breathe in
yeah.
the water, so he has to come to the surface because that's kind of the nature. That's kind of the nature of the
Exactly.
character.
So and then they can breathe underwater. They look human underwater, if I remember correctly, and they turn blue when they go into the air. Although Namor doesn't, because I think he's half human.
Okay.
So Namor's weird because he's half whatever the Atlantean thing is, and then he's half human, but the human half is mutant. So it's like it's
You just
really
hurt my,
wild
I
like
just
mix
hurt my
of
eyes with that.
yeah.
Oh my god.
But like his
I'm gonna have to get
I
take some
liked
more
I liked
drops.
his like flying
Yeah,
flying
the flying
around.
ankles, flying spinning ankle
Yeah, he
flying
did this
things.
thing where he would almost like kind of like jump off the air, like it was like the wings would like kind of like push off, like
Right.
so that was cool.
Okay. You know, the trailer looked really good. I
costume
like the
design looks
underwater
real good.
stuff. I
No
thought the
jokes
action-
or anything in this trailer
No,
as well.
let me talk about that a little
you
bit.
go
I
about
don't think
that.
this film is going to have that lighthearted comedy. There will be a few moments because there has to be some, but I don't think there's going to be a lot of that. I think that you can't, it's kind of like you can't make, you can't go off and say this movie's a blah, 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 and then it gets silly. Like, it can't have a bunch of silly jokes and stuff.
with the
it
two
can have
trailers
some
we've seen
comedic,
so
it can
far-
have some comedic moments, but I think it's going to have to be very careful
It
to
can't
not.
trend overly silly though. Given the
Yes.
two trailers we've given
Right.
so far, have given a very different vibe, or at least a slightly more mature, serious vibe than the average MCU film gives off.
Right.
So, and I would hope they would stick with that.
So, a couple fan theories out there is that T'Challa was married by this film,
I don't.
and then he will have a child on the way. Do you
Well, I
think
think
that
there's.
they'll do that?
I think some people thought that like Nakia will be pregnant with like a
Yeah,
kid.
because I saw that trending on not today, but I saw that a few weeks ago. So
and that might even be the kid they used to be like the next. They might even name the kid T'Challa, and that might be. And then they might even do like a time.
they have to find ways
Imagine if they
because
like
there's
made
a
that kid like they made the kid T'Challa, and then for like Secret Wars they just had him like age up, and they had a crazy ass like venture, and then he finally shows up like he's like aged up and he's T'Challa again. And there you go. Like I don't know.
I don't
and
know.
Kevin Feige literally hinted, I think the other day, because Kevin Feige finally did an interview where he talked about like that he thought it was definitely too soon to do a recast because we've
Right.
talked about that a little bit
Yep.
as well. But he did say like he alluded to that there was definitely like high consideration and maybe even a likelihood that like at some point there will be another T'Challa.
Well, I think that
which I think was like what anyone with a brain
Well,
who
they
understood
also-
the complexity and the nuance of like a person
there's
passing
so many
away.
easy,
would
there's so many
understand,
easy
like-
ways for them to address that, and they don't have to. They can do that in 1,000 different ways and not make it into a big deal. So.
Otherwise, I'm trying to think of what else that I really would appreciate about there was the scene. It looks like there's doing another. You remember, like I think I said this to you earlier. The South Korea like scene in like I think it's South Korea at least, or whatever Asian like country they go to in Black Panther for that little sequence towards the beginning. It looks like they kind of got another sequence because there's like another like street chase looking sequence, and there's like a scene
Marvel
where,
loves those street chases.
yeah, and they got the.
Well, that car was pretty cool.
There was like the old muscle car, and there was a shot of like that car, a motorcycle, and then Ironheart flying above him, like going through the fire, and I loved that shot. That shot was really nice.
Definitely. Yeah, no, I agree. I think it looks pretty good.
Looked visually very striking.
I think the
sound
film is-
design of this
yeah.
trailer is what really is impressive. Like this, like trailer stirs your, like makes you like really just knows how to stir like everything going on. It's tense. It's like it makes you emotional immediately.
Right.
They punch you in the gut immediately with like the Black Panther helmet.
Yeah,
like,
there's like
essentially,
the
immediately.
painting, like wall art.
Yeah.
Like I'm on a thing, and like it just kind of
It looks like some of the I think everyone in the first movie actually had a lot to do, which is like was pretty cool. That like I think everyone because there was like an ensemble film, the first one, like everyone.
Right.
It wasn't just like Chadwick and then he had a bunch of side characters around.
No,
him.
I
It
definitely
was
think
like,
that there's a lot of characters in this film, and,
Yeah,
and
but I
a
think
lot,
even
all those characters are back, and there will probably be some dynamic of. I think there's got to be some kind of dynamic about how do they replace T'Challa.
But I think
there's got to be some debate within the film. Otherwise, they're not all going to agree to it right away.
Namor is going to remind people of T'Challa, maybe. Like I think Namor's
Sure.
going. I think I remember something that
He's the T'Challa of his people.
Yeah, exactly. He's the T'Challa of his people, and like I said in the trailer, they say like M'Baku, like literally says that like the Atlanteans, whatever they're gonna call them in the film, view like Namor as as their god, almost because like he's not, he doesn't look like the rest of them. He's a mutant. Like he has all these like different things about him, but I think they remember seeing a like it was either a interview, I think, with the guy who's playing Namor, Horta, I think the guy's name is.
Okay.
And he said that like Namor as a character like either looked up to T'Challa, like he was aware of who T'Challa was, and will have a level of he will. I think he's not going to be just like this nefarious. I don't think it's really going to be. I think if that makes sense.
So I mean, and we've talked about this probably 4 or 5 times before. There's a lot of pressure on Marvel on this one. They got to get this one right.
They do. I was going to get to that.
And I think that they seem pretty proud of this. Let's be honest. There's a bunch of people that are going to be jerks on social media because they wanted, and there's going to be that, which I talk about way too much. But there's going to be that. But at the same time, forget about that. Forget on like. They have to be. They can't do this film for somebody on Twitter. They've got to do it for what they think is right, for the legacy of Chadwick Boseman, and I think that they did not rush into this.
No.
You know, sometimes you see films and they got to come out with it right away, and 2 seconds later there's in memory of Chadwick Boseman, like 2 seconds later, and they focused on trying to make the best movie that they can.
They had to rewrite everything.
They got to rewrite the movie. They probably had to reshoot parts of the movie. Like I don't know if anything.
I don't think they started filming.
Oh no, you're right. They hadn't done anything on this film. So I think they've got this. I think this is going to be.
I think this is the win of the year.
This is the win of the year.
It'll kind of recalibrate it because I think it's going to be a big win, at least from what I'm seeing. The 2 hours and 40-minute thing actually gives me, in this case, doesn't give me pause. Like after Eternals, you would think that longer movies would maybe give me pause, but like in this case, I think they have a lot to do.
Well, they're building off a franchise like within itself.
We've been away from Wakanda for a very long time. They have to address like his past.
Yeah, that's what I said. There's 2 movies going on.
They have to create a whole new culture and a whole new hero. That's again is a very historic Marvel character.
I just hope they don't. I hope they spend time just on that, and it's not because of the blip. Like, okay, we've heard enough about the blip. I'm sure they'll reference it, but it seems like every 2 seconds we have to hear.
It's also the last movie of the Phase.
This is the last movie of the Phase.
You would think that there's going to be something also shattering, whether it's like a Doctor Doom post-credit scene or something like that.
All right.
So,
anything else on the trailer?
Well, there's the suit, I guess. Is that?
Oh, yeah. At the very end, we see clearly a female in the suit.
I think there's a second. We see like a little bit of, I think, the upgraded Ironheart suit at the end too, as well.
Yeah. Well,
and
I
we
think
get that great shot of the
tech. She's got the tech too.
Of the head in the mask.
Yeah, she's got the whatever tech.
The classic Tony Stark shot.
But what's the tech? What's his name? What was the AI called?
Did she?
No, the guy. What was his
Jarvis?
Like she's got some kind of Jarvis. I don't think it's. It may not be. Definitely something she was looking.
Well, I think by the end she'll have a vibranium
She's gonna have something. I feel like the Black Panther people are gonna upgrade her suit.
Yeah, she's gonna have 2 different ones throughout.
Because who else has access to that type of tech?
Well, that's what I'm saying. Even
besides Stark technology,
which the Wakandas are applying a lot of tech now because they're giving
a lot of tech sharing. So okay, yeah, no, definitely. We think it's. Who do you think's in the suit?
It looks clearly like Shuri, and I think there's been some leaks, but
okay.
But I think that was always the most likely. I think that makes the most sense.
I don't think it's the girlfriend.
Well, because what's the name? Okoye, who's Denai Guerrero's character, is already the leader of the what's it called, the Dora Milaje, who the Dora Milaje are kind of iconic as it is, like visually. Like they're one of the more iconic like side elements of Marvel to this day. So like she already has that role, and Nakia is probably going to be like the mother of like T'Challa's child, and like she was kind of her own thing anyway.
Let's move on.
But also real quick, I think M'Baku is going to get an even bigger role this time than he did in the last one. I would say he was the most side character of the.
Well, he's a real fan favorite. So.
But he's a real fan favorite, and Winston Duke is like a really good actor as well. And I think even Angela Bassett is going to have a lot to do. I think Angela Bassett had a pretty decent amount in the first one, but I think she's going to be really carrying a lot of it for a while.
Okay.
In
Well,
this
she's kind of has to be kind of the
Was
heart
they
and
have her
soul.
like talking directly with like Namor? They got her talking to like the UN. They have a
Right.
lot of
Oh,
like
yeah, that's
big
right,
moments
right.
where she's like center stage.
There's definitely going to be like a whole bigger piece to this. That's the political.
She might even be the
stuff.
ruler, and it might not be Shuri. It might be her. Like instead of, and then Shuri's the Black Panther or something. Like it could end up being like.
I feel that's part of what they're going to work out in the first part of the film.
Yeah.
Like what the dynamic of.
But yeah, I'm impressed. And
Right.
like,
No, I think
we're
most
about a month
people
out
are.
from that, too,
Everything
so.
on social media at this point is
Very
been pretty
emotional,
positive.
too,
I was
so.
looking at a few things earlier, and it seems like nobody's like being stupid. So okay, all right. Well, moving on. We also wanted to talk about House of the Dragon. We want to talk a little bit about the Lord of the Rings TV show, which we haven't really talked about significantly.
We talked about it briefly. On
Yeah.
a few tangents. This is the best episode was the last one. Which one do you want to talk
The
about?
last episode was the last one.
Oh, I mean, like episode 6,
always-
the latest episode.
The latest episode of we're talking about.
Are
we in House of Dragons right now?
No, we're on Lord of the Rings.
Okay, so let's get right into the Rings of Power.
Well, the Rings
then.
of Power first. Yeah,
So-
why not? I watched that literally a couple hours ago.
So this is Amazon's attempt.
We watched this separately.
Yes, this is Amazon's attempt to
We don't. Everyone knows what this is.
to be their Game of Thrones.
Yeah.
They spent
Mixed bag. so
everything.
far.
They spent everything on it, and I called the first couple episodes the Rings of Power naps because, like, I fell asleep. I just kept falling asleep trying to watch it.
Yeah.
But then was it 4? Episode 4 was really good. Like they really started to get more of the
4 was like I had started to think like
Vandar.
this
Is that the one guy's name? The elf.
I mean, beyond the fact in that episode that like I think like 4 like none of the first couple episodes even feel like some parts don't even feel like the same show. Like
Yes.
if I'm being real, but there was elements of 4 where I thought like the story was at least starting to pick up and like
Right.
things were starting to like align and like kind of the lines were starting to cross or at least. And then like they had 5 and
It
they
was
just
very
like stopped
cool.
still.
Yeah.
Like the train was going and then they were going to like Paris and they stopped
then
at like
they-
a train station before Paris.
right.
Like it's
so they go, "Like, let's
for
stop
a
here."
whole
But no,
episode.
no.
Like in the
That-
suburbs.
Yeah, right.
Like,
Yeah, like it definitely. Yeah, you're definitely right. Like I that's a cool analogy to it because it was like, oh, okay, yeah, we stopped again. Okay.
And sometimes that's fine to do something like that, but in this case it wasn't.
Well, there's clearly. I mean, it
Well, to
was
me- actually,
obvious.
let me
It
think-
was obvious that there's a bunch of different characters that they have to like storylines that they have to bring in. You got the people that are kind of like hobbits, but they're not hobbits. I don't really understand why there's no hobbits, but that's fine. Let that go.
They're pre
Pre-hobbit. Why couldn't they just be hobbits? It's not like 40,000 years before the hobbits. How much
It's like
evolution was there?
4,000. It's not that much.
I know, but it's not enough that we needed to
No, I
have
got
like.
you.
Like, just
I
not-
agree.
Like it was just like it was like an
But
unnecessary.
again, it's not like they made that up. That's like the whole the stupid lore they're coming through.
True.
Like, which I think is also the problem. Like, and I'm gonna compare that to House of the Dragon for a moment because like there is like a lot to compare, especially in this episode because this episode I felt got a lot closer to like some of the, like the gore level of like Game of Thrones at certain action points.
Sure,
like there was some
definitely.
gross stuff like
Yeah.
in some of
Yeah.
like the orc stuff with like the. There's some like orc
Well,
bleeding
they-
stuff in this
they-
episode where
They
like they're
build it up. Obviously, we have the main Gabriella, whatever her name is.
Gadriel.
Gadriel is obviously the same character from the original films that
Yeah.
we've seen.
that makes. Let me get back to the where I was.
So
quick.
the characters are. I mean, there's a few of the elf characters are characters that we already kind of know. They're played by different performers, obviously.
Yes, we have two
and
from
we
the
kind of a lot of what we're hearing about we know is alluded to in the Lord of the Rings trilogy.
at least at some level, yeah.
Like Sauron and all this, all that stuff. We kind of know that this has happened in the history of Middle Earth. We
I would
kind
say
of
like
know
I would
this is
compare
there.
it like this. Both. It's very interesting. I would say Game of Thrones and Lord of the Rings are the two biggest fantasy visual mediums like that exist. Like in terms of like movies or like TV. I would say, and they're
in
both
terms of
happen to
strict
be,
fantasy,
yes,
by the definition of what
The
you
most
call
iconic
fantasy,
in
the
that
most
genre.
iconic. Some people would argue Star Wars is fantasy, but whatever. I know what you mean, and I would agree.
Yes,
with you.
in terms of like
Yeah.
the how we view fantasy, not sci-fantasy or
Not
whatever you
sci
wanna call
fantasy,
it. Like,
right? No, I agree with that. No, I think that's a really good point. These two are the
And
biggest.
they're both prequels, and
Yep.
that go to like a kind of an unfamiliar time in.
right, pretty far back.
Because even in House of the Dragon, like the type of world we're living, it's not totally different, but it's very different than even like the earlier seasons of like Game of Thrones. Like they're not similar, and it took and I think like they went about both shows had to have at the same issue of like giving a lot of lore, a lot of exposition that sets up the point that you're in.
Right.
And to be fair, I think that the House of the Dragon had less to fill in than the Lord of the Rings show did.
I think I was going to say the exact same thing. I think you're right.
But House of the Dragon has 10 episodes and less to fill in, and Lord of the Rings or Rings of Power has 8 episodes and even more to fill in. And I felt like the first 4 episodes, if not the first 5, were just like this slow drog of slowly filling in all that so we can finally get to a coherent like story that we can tell.
There's two ways. Let me say something. I think there's 2 ways to think about this. Game of Thrones went off the air like recently, where Lord of the Rings hasn't been in the consciousness, even though I know they did the Hobbit movies and all that stuff, but even that was a while back. So I feel like there's more of a gap in generational stuff. So I think they felt they kind of needed to probably, as they were developing the first season, we got to establish what Middle-earth is, especially because it is much, much farther before than than House of Dragon is. House of Dragon's only, like a couple hundred years or something like that, 100 years or something like that. So they felt like they had to establish a little bit of that, and they got to kind of set the characters apart a little bit from their predecessors.
Honest, it's probably necessary.
It's probably necessary, and I'm not saying that they didn't need to do it. It could they have done it in 3 episodes instead of 4? Would have been a lot better.
Yeah, that's all we're saying, really.
That's really because it wasn't bad. Let's talk
but it was
about
very high fantasy.
The production value is ridiculous.
Let me just put this clear. Yeah. None of our issues have been with visuals or even costuming or production value.
Production values,
like that. And that was never.
Special
I don't think
effects.
Anyone had that thoughts about that as an issue with the show.
And unlike
and I know and we
and
don't
unlike
and
the Master
give
Chief
a shit
show,
that there's a black person who's an elf.
Nobody cares about that on this. Nobody on this podcast. It was
very quickly if you
No, we're not.
Quickly if. It's if seeing a black if you're such a huge fan
yes.
if you being I don't know what's the word entrenched in
yes.
in what you're watching and
right.
just being engrossed so much
right.
if you're put off if what takes you out of it is the color of whatever's character's skin in a fantasy universe in a place called Middle Earth, if that's what takes you out of it,
then don't watch the show.
That you see a black person, then you have a problem that you got to deal with yourself.
Right. So, I don't want to get too far into that though. I mean, but I agree with you. I mean, these are all fantasy characters. It's how come the orcs are that color? Nobody seems to, Well, seriously,
there's no white people in the last one.
It's like
in the future.
But I don't want to get into that because we're not those people. We're not those people.
But either way, whatever you do talk, for whatever reason, that is one of the main story bits attached to this.
Just give me good actors and a good script, and I don't really care. I'm not going to worry about that. Now, if the actor, my turn. If the actor is doing something inappropriate, then I don't want the actor to work. That's fine. But in terms of I'm not. I want to see good writing, and that was my only criticism in the first couple episodes. It's man, you spent an awful lot on sets. Maybe you could have spent $10 more on a scriptwriter because it took too long to get. And I think they lost some people along the way because of that.
Yeah,
that's hopefully they get them back because they spent a lot of money on this. So by episode 4, we start to get some action. We start to get some cool new fantasy stuff. And then we get
real quick on back to my one thing real quick. It's the idiots. Very. I don't want to
wrap it up. I don't want to spend time on this.
I'm not spending too much time on it.
Well, you are. But go ahead.
I guess this is a very if they were in this fantasy world and they were okay, we're gonna tell a skin color based story in Middle Earth, that'd be one thing, but that's not what they're doing. It's just casting a person.
Yes,
who just looks
they casted the best actor for the job,
and they're too many women after all. It's not in the Return of the King when the woman's literally I'm no man and literally kills one of the main enemies because she has a uterus and that's the only.
She doesn't use
that's the literal reason that she's able to kill that thing is because she's a woman. Right. That's the whole point of. And that was a Tolkien thing. That's in the book from 1800, whatever the book's from.
It's not 1800. It was not written during the Revolutionary War.
Every time it's getting earlier.
I know
it's
what you mean.
1700.
1700. Yeah.
Columbus
George Washington wrote this book. So. No, I mean, and it's you know, and it's just it's a stupid
It's a
thing.
stupidity, yeah.
Just you know, and if you don't
We
like
move
it,
on now, though. That's
right.
all, I
If
just
you don't
wanted to
like
get
it, don't
out,
watch
yeah.
it. But I mean, I think it's pretty good now. It's getting there.
We can talk about episode 6 now.
Let's get to the
Episode
episode. You watched episode 6. I watched episode 6. We purposely chose to not watch them together. You
I heard it
watched
was
it
good.
after I left for work.
People were saying it was a 10 out of 10. I saw that a lot. It wasn't a 10 out of 10.
I'm
going
going to give it a 9.6 out of 10.
This was the best one by far. Like, none of the other episodes are even
So we are going to
close.
get into spoilers if you're watching
Yeah,
the
so-
show.
yeah,
So there's a lot of shit that happens. Here's my criticism of the episode. They spent all this time building up to this, and they squeezed way too much into this
There's
episode.
slightly too much in this episode.
Yeah.
Like, I think the end might have been, should have been, like, the beginning of, like, next episode, maybe, if that makes sense. Or, like, I don't know. But
I don't know. I
there's a
just
lot.
felt like this whole episode, the last episode, episode 5, was like the packing for war episode. It was like, hey, everybody, let's tie our shoes. Let's sharpen our blades. There was a lot of stuff at the beginning of episode 6 that probably could have been in episode 5. And just like the shot of them starting to get to the castle would have been how I would have ended it. And you could have spread out, you know, a couple things in the second episode, in the sixth episode before you.
Otherwise, my only other problem with this episode is just like a problem with the series overall is that I don't think the dialogue's like the greatest. I think like the dialogue's a little clunky, which I to be honest with you, I fully expected given like first off, this is like a high fantasy thing, and I feel like and dialogue from high fantasy is very often like this.
It's
and,
not all bad.
It's often very overly flowery.
Yep.
And sometimes it's a little bit like.
Well, what did you think of the speech
Like, to
before the
play
war?
much?
What did you think about the speech before he went into battle?
Which one?
Either one, because the bad guy does one too. When he's talking to the
bad
orcs.
one's good. I like the bad guys one. I think what's the one elf's name? The
Avadar. The black one?
Yeah, the black one. Yeah.
Avadar.
Avandar. Is that like I do?
Okay,
I like
he's
him
the
a
best
lot.
character on the whole
I
thing.
like him a lot.
He's the best character in
Yeah,
the whole
because
damn
he's just
thing.
like doing it by himself. He's not.
Yeah.
He's not.
'Cause he's not
Because he's not
moody.
Galadriel, who's
Galadriel's like,
who's kind of allowed to do what she
yeah,
wants
right,
because
right.
she's like the daughter of like the
Right.
whatever the one of the large leaders are.
Yes.
He's just like kind of a random like foot soldier. Who just happens to be like really good,
He's
and like
really
he has
good.
like a relationship with the
Yeah,
one girl now,
yeah,
and but which I like that girl a lot too.
Yeah.
Like that's one of my more favorite.
Bowen or
Yeah. Mhm.
yeah. You know.
This episode made me like the king a lot too.
Yeah, the Lord Haldor.
Halbridge.
Hellbrand.
Or
Hellbrand.
yeah.
Hellbrand. I mean,
the queen I don't really feel anything towards yet. Galadriel I like a lot. I like Galadriel because she's like my.
she was kind of annoying
I
at the
remember
beginning.
Galadriel from
Yeah.
like the
Right.
like the
and this
the
is a
old
different
ones
version of
and-
her, obviously. This is not the version that
Yeah,
we
she's
see in the
more
Lord of the Rings.
all-powerful and like very
like she's evolved past
yeah.
where she was at this point in her
like
her
she's
existence.
kind of like a normal elf at this point, but we're in the other one, she's like so old and like so
Right.
ancient as an elf and very very powerful, and like we
Right.
see like her interactions with Frodo and like literally
Right.
doing like telepathy and shit.
Right, and we
so.
didn't. I mean, so this episode is. I hate to say it. One of the reasons why this episode is good is we don't have the stupid hobbits on the pre-hobbits
Yeah.
on their in their train.
Also, that shit, that shit doesn't make
you know,
any sense.
going
Like,
west looking
we
for
don't
gold.
leave anyone behind, so we send all the people that are slow to the end
Yes,
to die.
to die
It's
with
like-
Gandalf.
And we sing, but as we sing
I know he's not
songs,
Gandalf, but I
as
just call
we
him
sing
Gandalf 'cause I don't know what
songs,
to
I
call-
think he's probably gonna be magic-y.
He's gonna be magic. He's
we
gonna be.
haven't seen a wizard.
We haven't
yet
seen
or
a
anything,
wizard,
right?
so
Like,
that's why I
we
think
saw
he's
the
Gandalf.
ball
That's why I
thing,
think he's Gandalf.
but,
He's
like,
not Gandalf, but
we
I
saw,
just
like-
call him Gandalf.
But he had like the weird power things. He's done a couple different powers too. Like he
Yeah.
did the freezing thing. He
And he's
did,
got
like,
a
the
beard.
power wave.
so he
thing,
must be
so-
Gandalf because he has a beard.
He's Gandalf.
He's Gandalf.
I'm pretty sure Gandalf is like.
He can't be Gandalf.
I'm pretty sure he's.
There's
Gandalf
no way
is
Gandalf
old.
could be.
Gandalf is like hundreds of years old.
He's
if I
not.
remember
He's not
correctly. Like,
4,000 years old or whatever the time frame is on this thing.
I'm pretty sure Gandalf. I literally looked up Gandalf because I was curious. Like apparently Gandalf gives.
But
don't get-
Gandalf
I
dies
don't-
and comes back
I-
as a
I-
different.
I just
He
wanted-
comes back as a different
I'm
wizard.
just happy they got to hear
Because
because like,
first he's Gandalf the Grey, then he's Gandalf the
listen,
White.
so much of these early. I don't with Lord of the Rings. There's all this like weird elf stuff of like anything elf like overseas from Middle Earth. Anytime that it's like not Middle Earth, I clock out. I just clock immediately out. Like I don't like it's too much for me.
You just don't care about Middle Earth?
No, like because
you only care about
because
Middle
there's
Earth.
like 2 or 3 different locations that aren't Middle Earth that all have like these weird elf-sounding like fantasy names that are like not the same but are different from each other, but they all have elves and they're all like the lands of the undying, and one is a light tree and like one is an island with humans on it, and like I have no idea what's going on there. I just understand Middle Earth. Like I get
and
that.
that was
like,
the problem. That was the problem with the
first.
first few episodes. With some of that is what you're talking about.
Yes,
to
whereas
be
once
honest.
you get to Middle Earth, I'm much more able to.
All right,
like,
so let's stick with episode 6
myself,
because
and I can kind of figure out.
I think we've
where
made our
everything
point
is.
about that the show took some time to get where it's going, but now it's gotten there. Of course, now I'm worried about episode 7 is going to be them
I don't
like.
think episode 7 is gonna be very good.
I think, I'm worried that episode 7 is going to be them like cleaning up garbage.
No, I think episode
after the
7
battle.
is literally only the other 2 stories. I think these 2 stories.
Oh
merge.
no, you're right.
Yes.
Oh no.
And I think it's the other 2 are going to be.
I'm gonna get.
With,
I'm gonna get a Hobbit
wait, what are
episode.
the
I'm
other
gonna
2
get a
stories?
pre-Hobbit
I don't remember.
episode.
There's the Hobbit one, and there's what else? There's another one, isn't there?
The other guy, the other elf, the other elf that's with the dwarf.
Oh, him, yeah.
Yeah,
so it's gonna be them.
It's
gonna
gonna be
like,
them.
and it's gonna be like how
I kind of forgot about them because they weren't in this episode
at all. The entire
at all.
is gonna get hit by a rock. The entire
Okay.
column. The entire
Yeah,
Hobbit column.
I
is
think
gonna
you're
get hit by a meteor.
I have a feeling we're not going to see anything what happens to the people from episode 6 and episode 7.
We're gonna see that dust cloud hit them, and then we're not gonna see them for a week.
Yeah,
That-
so I got to wait
so
2 weeks
so
to find
exactly,
out what happened to
the final episode.
to the thing.
Because
And we know that she can't die in the blaze of flames
and obviously.
because she's back. And
Which,
they
I don't know. Which to be fair, I did hate that ending.
She's
because, like
she's the unburning.
because
she's
like I don't know,
Khaleesi.
like, that's a ash cloud. Like that like melts skin. Like it's like
not elf skin.
Okay, so everyone else is dead. Like the entire
Sure, why
rest
not?
of
Maybe
the,
she uses
so,
the
like,
she uses her Wakanda
that's
force
the beginning
power.
of episode 8. Is she
does
she just digs herself
she's
out
like
of all
Wanda.
the ash cloud.
She used Wanda like force field stuff.
You know, literally, like they were about to get hit with the thing that took out Pompeii.
Yes.
So like
No,
I don't know
that's a good
how
point.
so, like I don't know like how one avoids that. You don't survive getting hit with ash cloud. Like it's not like dust. It's not like dust, but it's black. Like it's like mass.
Because
Gandalf's
Gandalf's gonna show up and take care of it. Gandalf's the Eagles. The Eagles are
The
showing
Eagle's
up.
gonna
So.
come block it with his.
So good show. Moving along.
Yeah, it's much better. This was much better.
This was a much better episode. I like where we're going with the show now. Feel like we're trying to get all the characters together.
Which, to be fair, I was joking, but like showing the horror and the destruction of maybe because I assume that mountain is the mountain where the rings get made.
Oh,
and that Mordor doesn't exist.
You're
yet.
right.
I think Mordor doesn't exist yet.
I think you're right.
And that where we
this
are
is
now
Mordor.
is getting corrupted.
What's turning into Mordor?
Yes, that's what my thought is at least.
And he says he killed Sauron, which isn't really possible.
Sauron.
Well,
I don't think Sauron's around right now. It seems like
it's only gonna be an eye later.
So
anyway.
I guess it's gonna be like
all that's left is his eye. So
I guess it's like what does he? Because I assume we'll see like body. Sauron. Yeah, I don't know because I don't know if this is after the first. Do you remember the first scene in Lord of the Rings?
Yeah.
Where like it's like you see Sauron just like literally just like standing above everyone, and he's like he's just like pimp slapping like all the soldiers across the battlefield.
I don't know if that's the terminology, but okay, sure, pimp slapping
with his staff, and then there's going.
I wonder in the script if it said
It's
that.
like-
You know, like when Peter Jackson was writing the script, he
Peter
says,
Jackson wrote that.
yeah, he says
specifically,
pimp slapping. That's the technical term for it. Pimp
Anyway,
slapping.
I don't know if we're gonna get that version of Sauron. I don't know if we're just getting the big tower eye again. Like I don't
It's
know.
our eye.
I don't know if this is after that. I don't know if this is after or before that. I think it's after. That is after.
Sure.
I don't know. Like because they have.
I
rings
guess
already,
they'll
but-
get to it.
So,
We're probably three seasons away from that anyway. I don't know how many seasons they're planning on doing this show, so we've got a while to go.
get it up
They
years.
can't get to that too
So-
quick.
Either way, much more improved. So,
It's good. It's
yeah,
fine.
Much improved this
It's
episode.
it's a good show. Amazon's spending
and I
their money
think
well.
honestly, I think once they get into the thick of it and whatever the actual like
When we start getting everybody
conflict,
together.
whatever prolonged conflict this is,
I like
think
the
maybe
dwarf.
then it'll
I like
work.
the relationship with the dwarf and the other elf. I can't think of that elf's
Even
name
then,
right now.
today's episode reminded me of all the good non-Frodo Sam stuff. Like remember when you're with like the three
The
guys.
non-Frodo stuff.
Well, to be
okay,
fair,
I have to say,
I don't
let me-
dislike the Frodo Sam
can
stuff.
I
but
talk
there's
about
too much
that?
of it.
So you just said that you checked out in this show when they go
Yeah.
to like those other places. Whenever I watch Lord of the Rings, I check out when they go to Sam and Frodo because every scene's exactly the same. Mr. Frodo, we have to. You can't trust. You can't trust. You can't trust. So what's his face? He's gonna Gollum. He can't. Like Sam, we need him. Mr. Frodo, and then
Frodo, I can see the mountain. I can see it. It's like,
that mountain is never close.
It lights up at night.
It's just like can't you just walk towards the damn thing? Where are you going?
Like Mordor
Sit
was a big
down.
wall that they could see. Like they saw Mordor at the end of the first movie, like in the distance. That was the last shot of the first movie.
Yeah, like how hard is it to find?
It's like it's over there.
Just walk towards the thing with the giant eye on the top of it, for God's
sakes.
sakes.
3, apparently. Like,
just kill freaking Gollum.
just get it.
Precious.
I would have killed Gollum immediately.
I do. Okay, so before we get
and to be fair, I don't think it's bad. And
It's
I
not
actually think
bad. There's nothing wrong with
They
it.
both execute it fine. Like they sell it well. It's just a lot of it, and
Right.
it's every scene.
Right.
And but whereas,
It's every single
and it's
time.
not as,
Sam cries
and
way
it's
too
not
much.
as fun as Aragorn, Gimli, and
Right.
Legolas.
Oh, yeah, those
a
three.
human, a dwarf, and an elf like teaming up and kicking ass, and like
that's
and,
the
like,
best trio.
competing.
That's the best trio of all
It's
time.
one of the best trios of all time in an
Yeah.
action sense, and
Yeah.
not to mention they go and like, meet up with other armies and
Yeah.
stuff, and Gandalf and like.
Well, when he shows up with the
other
okay, so
hobbits
let's get
and
into
the
this a little
eagles, and,
bit
like, it's
because
great, yeah.
you guys yelled at me. You and your other brother.
Yes.
Your brother yelled at me because I hadn't watched Lord of the Rings in a long time.
Yeah.
And I think I had forgotten parts of it or something because it's
Yeah.
been so
They're
damn
long
long.
movies, too.
So it was funny. I decided when Rings of Power came out that I would rewatch Lord of the Rings so I could have a fair comparison. So I watched the one night, and then I watched part of the other one. And then when I was away, I ended up watching it on the airplane because I had long flights when I went to Florida. So I ended up watching the third one. And oh my god, I forgot about it. I forgot about Andy Serkis.
Andy Serkis.
Circus is like
Gollum.
he's in the
That's his
first.
first
We
movie.
actually finally see him as Gollum in the first part before not all CGI'd.
Yeah.
And oh my God, this trilogy was really good. And you're like, yeah, of course it is. But I really having rewatched it now, so it's fresh in my mind. The two shows do connect and they do line up together stylistically.
Okay.
They definitely line up stylistically.
I don't think I thought visually it even felt like even like story wise. I think these.
But there's a lot of long.
Some of these stories do feel Lord of the Ringsy.
There's a lot of long, terrible speeches in the trilogy.
There's a lot, yeah.
So I think they kind of purposely put in some of like the dialogue-y crap. Like especially like
But I
you
think
said,
it works
because the
better.
elf,
But I think
whenever
it's
they
more-
go to
it's
Elfland,
executed better
whatever the
in-
elf
yeah.
section's called, in the old movies, it's just the same way. Like
Well, but that's on purpose. And
when
and
Aerosmith's
you're-
daughter,
and the
she's-
elves are not so
why
prevalent.
is Aerosmith's daughter always moving in slow motion?
Well, even
she never moves.
Well, the
She's
elves
always,
are not as
like,
prevalent by the time of like the Lord of the
Yeah.
Rings, right? And they're kind of like more of a low key society. Like
Yeah, I think they're kind of
they've
pulled
kind of
away from
retreated to
society.
like their special places
Right.
almost, like to the forests that they're
Right.
safe in. And so I think it's supposed to be one of those things where you find you approach and it is mystical and it
Right.
is like this like place of great power and like
Right.
this like kind of like a very ancient people. So like there's supposed to be a level.
Yeah,
of
Orlando
that.
Bloom and Sala from the Raiders of the Lost Ark series, John Rye Davis or whatever his name is, John Rye, the guy who plays the dwarf. They're just great. That's even when they're fighting. I forgot how good I love that one line when he
Legolas
kills
is, like,
the elephant.
Legolas is like such a like really fun character
He
to watch.
kills the elephant and he goes, "That only counts as one."
Because like Legolas, you watch too, and his only other like real trait besides being a badass is just absolute loyalty.
Yes.
and like that's his only other like trait, and it's just like really, really like
Yeah,
fun.
right. I mean, like,
like-
but they give him a hell of a sequence when he takes down the elephant.
Oh yeah, 100%.
You know, but I mean, there's so many cool moments, especially in the third one when the Army of the Dead, when he goes to see the Army of the Dead, and it's like,
Oh, yeah.
you know, and he's got the blade, and the guy tries to, you know, the dead guy tries to kill him with the thing,
Even
and
the
it
thing I always
clings off
remember
of
is
him.
that I always remember that he's like an enhanced human, or is like he's not fully human. Like he's like that weird
Who, the
one. that,
king?
like Aragorn's like 140 in like the Lord of the Rings movies because he's some like slower aging human like
guess I don't remember
species.
that.
Like they mention it once because like a little bit.
But it's great.
Because I think he ends up outliving like his what's his name?
And at the
What's his
end,
name's
like,
daughter, who he
and at the end, I have to say, I'm pretty emotional. At the end of the film,
And all
the
5
third film.
endings.
What?
all 5 endings.
All 5 endings. Yeah, the movie is like, okay, are we gonna end? Oh my God! Oh, what? And then no, when he kind of has to say goodbye to everybody at the end when they get on the boat and everything, when they all leave with the elves, and they go off with Gandalf the White and everything. And let's just be honest, like those movies work so well because of who plays Gandalf. Ian McKellen. I mean, because of Ian McKellen, that it's just he just carries the. Everybody else is good too.
Like Ian McKellen played like Magneto and Gandalf like every other year
at the same time,
for like
pretty
5
much.
years, basically 6 years, and he's great as Magneto, and he's somehow even better as Gandalf. He's somehow even better as Gandalf.
I can't think of another actor who could have played Gandalf besides Ian McKellen.
It's hard.
In history.
I can see other people playing Magneto, kind of.
Okay,
even though I love him as Magneto, but
Gandalf. Who else could have played Gandalf?
I don't know. I'm sure someone, but it's one of those things.
But
where,
I mean, you think of it had to be an iconic actor. They're not going to use Joe Schmo off the thing we never heard of.
I mean, my thing is just
he was just
Ian
perfect.
McKellen's voice is just so which is honestly what gives both Gandalf and Magneto such an extra. Aesthetic element is his voice is so perfect for each of them.
He's so good with Frodo in the film.
Yeah, his sweetness and overprotectiveness a little bit.
The smiles and the way he's protective of the elves, and I mean not the elves, the hobbits, and it's just
and Bilbo, even Bilbo. Yeah. Even I like the little scenes, even the couple scenes that we get between Gandalf and Bilbo. In the first one, there's two of them,
right?
And they're really nice scenes that make you feel like these two characters have great. Long history with one another,
right?
And again, obviously they do the Hobbit movies years later,
right.
But for at that point,
no.
And that was one of the most depressing things about what I learned about the Hobbit movies is that they just fucking stuck Ian McKellen on a green screen soundstage all by himself because instead of all the visual trickery they did.
There were certain things that he had to do,
he filmed when so much of of the Hobbit movies by himself,
right.
On a screen. It was so
yeah, no, I mean it is, and I mean. Think about how good you have to be as an actor to be able to do that.
Because unfortunately, Peter Jackson changed his methodology a little bit too much when he did the Hobbit ones, and I think those ones suffer for it a little bit.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with them.
They're
just not the same.
Close even to the.
Well, he took a book that's shorter than any of the three books. Yeah. And then he dragged it out into 3 movies. He should have done a part 1, part 2, but it shouldn't have been the same philosophy that he did the first 3 instead of doing the increased reliance on CG, which is what they did with them. Right. Well, there's sequences in the Hobbit movies.
The third one is particularly
that just don't the barrel sequence.
Oh, that's
There's no purpose for it. Yeah. It's not. I don't even know if it's in the book. Who cares if it's in the book? It's
that's not a scene that would be in at least
they didn't need that.
At least not in the way that it was filmed.
It would have been deleted if in the other trilogy.
And again, there are extended versions of those trilogies that scene wouldn't have even made it into.
Right.
There's an extended cut of every single Lord of the Rings movie, the first 3, and that scene wouldn't have made it into any of them.
Right. Okay. All right, that's what I got on that.
All right, House of the Dragon now.
House of the Dragon.
Again, very little to complain about yet again this week.
Has there been a bad episode?
No, not at all. Not even even close to average. Right. The only thing that I could say was bad that I've seen a little bit of complaint about is that there was definitely a weird lighting thing going on for part of the episode. It was a little dark in terms of and I was seeing that same complaint again. I don't know if it was stylistic. I don't know if it was one of those. Some people were saying it looks almost that because it didn't look bad, but it was one of those things where maybe on their systems it looked better than what it would look like when they put it out. To the world.
No, it had to be stylistic. I think it was just stylistic.
And it wasn't the entire movie, but it was the
first
20,
the scene
25
when
minutes,
they're at
right?
the scene when they're at the wake. That whole sequence.
Yeah. But I don't know. There's just it was almost it was just the brightness was down a little bit. It kind of just felt so that'd be the only thing that I could think of off the top of my head that was slightly off-putting. But otherwise,
in terms of where we are in the story, I mean, it's kind of obviously.
They continue to drop bombs every week,
There's just so much.
It's way more fast.
There's so much to unpack in the 6th episode here, with the funeral and everything, and then just the fight scene with the little with all the cousins, and then the taming of the dragon. Which dragon is that?
Vagar.
Vagar. Okay, so let's talk about Vagar because just from a production value standpoint,
Oh, the kid flying Vagar.
The kid,
That
but
scene
even
was
when before we get to that,
Yeah.
before he gets actually on Vagar, man, they do a good job
scale?
giving you the scale of how friggin' Vagar is.
Yeah, that
how
thing.
big he is.
Where they have the kid just like he's like an ant on him basically,
Yeah.
like next to him. He's got a whole like net to climb up to the saddle.
It's like the
all the way up
grumpiest
the side.
dragon, and it's like a grumpy old dragon.
Yeah, he
like
tries
he's
to, like,
like
burn the kid.
he's like he definitely like is like what do you want, kid? Get the hell out of here.
And he steals spoilers by the way. And the kid steals the dragon too, because it's not really his to
tame.
claim. I mean, dragon. I mean, if you claim a dragon, you claim a dragon. That's a very. I imagine even like with like a true Targaryen was to say it, like, well, he claimed it. Like he
did.
It's just kind of the.
Well, I mean that was kind of the point. Like
and like you could have claimed, like one of those girls probably should have claimed that dragon.
well, I mean he wasn't wrong. He's a jerk, but he's
even
not
Daemon
really
didn't
wrong.
like say nothing really. Like
What?
we didn't even see Daemon complain about it or anything like that. And you would think that like of anyone like,
and he certainly likes to complain.
yeah.
So, obviously there were some things we got to in this episode. There's just so much to unpack in this episode. Such a good episode. I mean, it's just really, there's just so many things that happen.
Yeah, they're on Driftmark for most of it, for like the funeral and like all the.
You got some characters grieving in one way. You got some characters grieving the other way. You got the hookup between grudges, and you got the kids fighting in the thing, and you got Christian Cole being like or whatever his name is, Kristen. What's the guy's name?
Cole, yeah.
He's just like, get over it. He's just such a I wanted someone just to stab him in the throat at this point, like because he's not like he's got no redeeming qualities left.
No.
And then the Queen. Holy Toledo.
Well, she just fucking lost it.
I want to take his eye. I'm like, what? An eye for an eye.
Yeah.
Like, that Dad's.
Yeah, we get up. I'm trying to think of like.
Grandpa Dad the King's not doing real well.
Let's go through the main things in this. So
Sure.
So obviously in the last one, Lena died. Lena
Yes.
Velaryon. And like so that leaves.
Well,
like,
she
her two
dies.
daughters
She
and
commits
Daemon.
suicide ultimately by dragon.
Well, she would have passed from.
No, but she
either
controls.
way.
She
controls
makes.
it, yeah.
She doesn't allow it to be. She's the opposite of what happened to Valeris's wife, first wife.
It's a little bit more like she gets to choose. She wasn't killed by her husband, like in a way. Like she got a little bit more, like she had to choose the way she left at least.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
if you can call that a win, I suppose. For
Well, I mean, for
I
her
mean,
it was.
to control your own end. I suppose
For her it was.
that is at least some level of of freedom.
Yeah.
So.
She's got like a do not resuscitate.
So yeah,
DNR.
in this episode, let's go through the main couple because like a lot happens, but not too much. It's mostly just around like Driftmark, or I think is what it's called.
Yep.
Like with the seat of House Velaryon, and kind of for the funeral, and then everyone's just kind of there.
It's a wake.
It's like
and
a
they're
wake,
all-
and then everyone,
and
and
they're
then all
all-
the lords.
some people
and
are
stuff
drinking,
also
and
just
some
in the
people are-
halls, and they're
yeah,
going back
right.
to like their own rooms and stuff.
Right.
And then there's all sorts of political dealings and like conflicts.
Yeah, it reminds me almost like the wedding in The Godfather. Like
Yes,
even
exactly.
though it's a thing, there's still a lot of politics and a lot of dynamics and things happening. Probably not where it should be
I'm sure
happening.
even at your own
and-
family reunion or family event, there's certain family members and
Well-
occasionally that like don't get along with one another, or when they're in the same conversation, there's sly remarks maybe occasionally thrown, and or
Yep.
like barbs or backhanded compliments, and so I think it's just supposed to be like that. And like there's also like people have histories with one another and grudges that aren't fully.
No, it's you bring all
and
these
they do
people
that well,
together, and it's
they
not
really,
going to go well.
Like have in a really like in detailed and nuanced way of like kind of no character is simple really. Like everyone is like, especially like Alice.
Even the kids, there's a lot going on with the
Alicent and
kids.
Rhaenyra,
The kids aren't just boring children,
No.
children like the Snow Children.
Alicent and Rhaenyra in particular, I appreciate the complexity there in each of them. Because even Alicent, as much as like she loses it in this one, and is like there are moments where you really don't like her,
Yeah.
you do understand like I love like her villain arc because she is because we've talked about it, like one of the biggest like kind of common reoccurring themes is the repression of women in like this society in like of Westeros. Like we've seen it in like just the way they're supposed to act, how noble women are supposed to just like bear children for their husband and like to risk their own life to do it. And then obviously like we've seen how Alicent has been used by her father as like basically a tool to procure like power.
Right.
So I like Alicent because Alicent, Rhaenyra's kind of our hero. I guess you can decide like who you want, but I would imagine that like Rhaenyra is more likable, at least in a like she has more of like the stereotypical hero qualities that you would typically get.
She hasn't done anything.
Bit really evil yet.
Anything evil that didn't have any effect on anyone but herself.
I mean, she's
right?
like broke the rules of like Westeros, but those rules of Westeros are inherently anti.
And her attitude
in
is
her mind.
Yes,
but Alicent is a woman who does realize the hypocrisy and like the how fucked up and like you saw her like how badly it affected her too with like her picking at her nails and like the type of like having to marry like the king when she was like what like 15 or whatever the hell she was. So she's a woman who's like been really used by this system as well, and while her friend was kind of like flaunting it and being in defiance of it, she was forced to be like the perfect little woman in this system and like to follow along. So she's kind of like it's kind of like she hates her because she hates herself almost in a way.
There definitely is like that, like mean girl quality where she's mad that Rhaenyra can pretty much have sex with whoever she wants.
Like older women,
she had to have sex with the old dude.
It's kind of weird. It's kind of like an older.
She had to give the children where she can do whatever she wants because she's the queen. She's the king to be. Or
it's kind of like in real life how like sometimes like older women will look down on like younger women for like maybe like promiscuity or whatever. Like and I think it's like a similarity of like that like a traditional woman in the society is looking down upon a woman who's running against the grain, kind of because she probably would like to do what the other one would be doing.
That's kind of my concept. I think she's more jealous that she got to have
that nuance,
that her friend got to do whatever she wanted, but she's got to follow the directions.
But it's also simplistic in the fact that Alicent's a mother and she wants to protect her kids, and now like she's been put, and because of the society, she's been put into this, and now she has to protect her kids, which was kind of like a Cersei thing as well. But that was actually probably the only redeeming quality of like Cersei in the original was that she would do anything to defend her children. Like so, there is a level of complexity with everyone going on. Even Rhaenyra is like very, like she has like her own wants and desires, but she also doesn't want to let her father down. She wants to be the ruler, but she like.
She knows she's destined, and the thing that keep in mind that with Rhaenyra that is different from every other character in this show, besides the king. What does she know? What's the truth that she knows from the first episode?
She knows the prophecy.
She knows the prophecy. So
even that, she in her mind is what I think I said this after the first episode. So even for her, like her desire to be there is also for her kids, to protect them, to protect herself, to maybe change the world that she wants to live in, so it doesn't have to be so. Like this to like women and stuff like that. Yeah, we don't know if that's something that she cares about or not yet, really. Because Daenerys was like even had a level of that where she wanted to like break the wheel and stuff. Yeah. So.
Yeah, she definitely wants to break certain traditions, but she at the same time she also knows her responsibility, and she can't say it to anyone. She knows that she's been entrusted with something that she at some point may have to deal with. She doesn't realize it's so far away in the future.
And then obviously those are the two main people. Like Alicent and Rhaenyra are kind of like there's the blacks and the greens are the two sides of the coin. They've said there's like it's based on the dresses they wore in today's episode. There's the greens for Alicent and the blacks for Rhaenyra, and they even see like the shots of like kind of which characters have already picked which side.
Well, yeah,
like symbolically at the end.
After all the kids have, it's funny.
Even the side players have enough complexity to them as well. Viserys is very interesting because it's like he's a increasingly weak man, and physically and mentally. It seems like even at one point in the episode he called Alicent Emma or Dama, his last wife, Rhaenyra's mother. Right. And like you saw like the absolute like kind of devastation that even after all this.
Well, we get to the point in the episode when all the cousins all end up in the one thing, and then the one
real quick,
the kid shows up, you get to that point, and you do see like literally in that scene where they end up on opposite sides of the room, like the family is as split as can be.
And even like all the side players, like are the other like Daemon's like perfectly like, and Daemon and Rhaenyra are Which that's a problem now for them as well, because again, like Daemon was the one who like she was made heir to stop Daemon from being heir, and now her and Daemon are basically an allyship. She's still the ruler, but he would be king consort or whatever the hell it's called,
Right.
Which would be a pretty powerful position. So I imagine like the people that wanted Daemon removed in the first place are not going to be happy about that.
True.
Not to mention that it's a tradition that doesn't really fly with Westerosi values. It's more Valyrian stuff, because again, you're not really supposed, like, it's an exception for like the Targaryen kings and stuff, but it's usually not so much if you're just like it's like it doesn't happen very often. It's a little much for a lot of the
Well, it's not like in Game of Thrones that people are aware that Cersei is having a relationship with her brother.
Well, this is a public like marriage from it, like, which again, this does happen with the Targaryens. Like the Targaryens have wed like their
Right.
like their cousins and stuff like that, and
Right.
even like their sisters on occasion. Like even like in this episode, like we learned that Aegon, like Alicent's oldest son, is betrothed to her daughter, like to his sister. We
Right.
learned like I think the sister's also like a seer as well,
Right.
which even like at one point she was like mumbling to herself, and then we like realized, oh, she's literally talking about like Larys, and she was referring to him as like the spider, like just like how Varys, like in the original Game of Thrones, and he's the spy master guy, like in this show. So there's these weird connections that they're trying to tie between everything as well. But even like there's a lot. I like the schemers on the side. Daemon's a really good schemer. Corlys is like a really interesting type of schemer where it's a lot of based on his own pride. Even if his wife doesn't like really care to be like king, like he's still caught up on it because of his own pride, his own like ambition.
Yeah, she calls him right out on it too.
And then Larys is like, I don't know if Larys is like into Alicent. I don't know if he's kind of like I think he's a little bit of a psycho, if we're being honest. Like the way he talks and like some of his like
Right.
is like
Yeah,
his
he's our little
expressions and like
Yeah.
some of his
It's a little bit of both.
He has a little bit of like blank stares occasionally where he's like there's like no like humanity at all. And I'm like,
He is a nice mixture of a lot of different things.
He's very off-putting.
He's kind of Ramsay. He's kind of Ramsay because he kills his own brother.
I will say, for a guy who's in this universe is crippled and is supposed to be seen as a non-threatening person,
His
like,
disability
he's very,
is only physical.
off-putting,
There's
like,
no other disability in him except his physicality, limits of his physicality. So he overcompensates, of course, with his the way he's going to manipulate the system, his scheming. I don't think he ever thinks he's going to be in charge or anything, but he just wants to be. He wants to be able to manipulate those that are in charge for his own whatever. Yeah. So eventually he can be the hand or whatever he wants out of it. You know, I don't know if he necessarily thinks he's going to get anything from Allison physically. I don't think he thinks that. I don't think he's.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
I don't think he thinks that. I mean, you know, like the dragon scene's amazing. The whole scene when everybody's back together after the cousins fight in the basement.
I actually liked a lot.
That was a really, really good sequence. I mean, let me say
set
this:
up the tension and like the scaredness about why the kids would be scared, why they
it was incredibly well written, incredibly well directed, because it did feel like
it showcased their morals well.
It felt like, you know, alliances and it felt like little kids in that scenario. It didn't,
100%.
It didn't. I mean,
it didn't feel overly complex. It felt confused and like a little bit immature and like
and passionate.
And yes,
you know, like, you know, even with the thing where he gets the knife out and he cuts the cousin.
Yeah.
I mean, like it's just out of sheer passion and anger, and
I think it was a realistic fight too, because though they actually had the 4 younger kids struggle, which I think they would have. Again, like
none of them were like good at fighting or anything like that. It wasn't like
except for the elder one, who was like should have been like the
he
most
should have been able to
competent,
kick all their asses,
yeah,
and you know, and I think that the way they did that
the
was
sand and the slice was good. Like,
I think that was really, I thought it was really well thought out, and the way they kind of allied themselves and the way they were mad, and you know, the little brother crying when he gets hit and, you know, broke his nose broken, and like I just thought they did a really nice job. And even when they go back to the sequence when they're all together, I mean, it's kind of funny, like when cousins fight at family parties, the way everybody's arguing for their own children is the way it would happen. Like, you're not gonna, you know.
Yeah, that was a very realistic kind of like fight, I think.
The mother being mad at the oldest of her children.
Protective parents like going at it and like. Exactly, and the kids
and I've seen aunts yell at each other because they want vengeance at a birthday party because someone said something mean to them. Like that's how families are.
No, I
Unfortunately.
agree. Yeah, I think there's a real level of realism to like all these very complex like fantasy scenes.
And then meanwhile, you got the patriarch just trying to hold this shit all together.
And he's also just like so sick of it, which at this point that he's not handling it well even at this. He's not even trying to handle it well at this point.
No, eventually he says, "As your father, your grandfather, and as your king, put this aside." You shit's pissing me off.
Yeah,
it was really cool how they kind of covered.
I love this,
way.
and he's like that, and Patty Constantine is just killing it. Like each episode, he has to literally play a completely different character. Like with in terms of like his performance has to shift a noticeable amount from his last performance every episode.
Yeah.
So
yeah, definitely. No, for sure.
And even Damon has had to go is slightly even Damon's character has matured from he's still a bit cunning and a little bit nefarious and a bit like shady in some of the actions he does this episode.
Yep.
But he's quite a bit more mature. It seems like it seems like he's a bit more low key now. At least somewhat.
Damon. I mean, obviously, at his moments.
And I want to talk about the end too.
Rhaenyra, because he kind of was a little off on this episode a little bit in some ways. He was, I wasn't sure. I think he's got a lot going on because, obviously, he's not. He's sort of broken up about, the loss of his wife. I think he generally cared for her.
He said they were happy enough. Which was
but that's what he's going to say. That's what he's going to say.
For Damon, that seemed
but he's got a lot of
more
guilt.
emotion than
he's got a lot of guilt
would.
in that scene.
I think so too.
And that's kind of affected him probably more than even he thought it would realize.
But also, the Rhaenyra Damon connection obviously reemerges here,
right.
And obviously they get
that reemerges is a
and
good
they get a
word
Valerian
for it.
wedding too, which is something we've never seen before. We've only seen the Westerosi.
Yeah, we're already over an hour, so obviously we're not going to bother with Andor.
Yeah, and I think we'll do
just
next week.
Get into
Andor
this.
was only was a very first off for Andor. I'll say this real quick. Andor, great little setup episode for what seems to be a heist episode going next.
Right.
Longer episode. It was 43 minutes long, which is, like I said, a normal episode of TV, and that's what it should be going forward. Now that there's not 3 a week,
I feel that we're getting little. That show's being written in little sequences of 3 episodes.
Yes.
I feel like because the first 3 are
little
one.
Arcs going on.
Now we got a mini arc going for the next 3 episodes. We're already one end. The next 2 episodes are going to be this first mission.
Next season is 12 episodes as well. They said next season is 3 episode arcs where each one's a different year.
Right.
I think this season is that same thing, only it's 1 year, and each episode is just 3 things that kind of relate to one another.
Right. Okay. Well, we're not going to spend any more time.
That's all I'll say for Andor.
So you wanted to wrap up. You wanted to
kind
of wrap up the ending of this episode of House of the Dragon.
What I love about this show is that I've said on this podcast before that I've not read the book Fire and Blood, which is what this is based off of. But I've watched a lot of videos and I've seen a lot of stories from it, and I know a pretty decent amount. So in what they've said that book is. We've said before, it's an in-universe textbook, which is written to be have certain information be incorrect, or to be the result of rumor heard by the in-universe author or people that told the author.
Well, and history's written by the victors,
or sometimes history is written by bad sources or sources that weren't that close to the action or are just telling a third-hand story, which is often the case in. Even in Westeros, this is the way George R.R. Martin writes is the farther you go away from Westeros, the less the maesters know. So the farther you get, when you hear the lore of different places from a Westerosi perspective, the weirder and more fantasy it gets. Right. If you actually go to those places, the likelihood is it's going to be a normal kind of place, at least by the standards
Makes
of
sense.
that world. But it's just more of a.
So what strikes you?
Makes things seem fantasy-wise.
So there was obviously 2 things in particular about the end of this episode that you thought were pretty cool.
So basically,
one of them you're going to talk about how it is a direct conflict of the textbook.
Yes, this is the one I want to start with. In the book, so obviously Rhaenyra and Daemon get married in this episode, and how could that be?
She's already married. Get married because she's already married.
To,
and they say that
to what's his name?
Her cousin, whatever.
Her cousin, whatever.
The guy who's been her husband for all these years.
Corlys' son.
Who is not the father of the children, and that kind of definitely comes out
and
now
he's also,
factual.
And he's gay as well, and he is as a hasn't been and there's but some talk he hasn't been the best like husband.
Well, he admits that.
He hasn't been putting up the best.
He sends
appearance
his lover
even.
away because he feels he needs to be more. After everything that happens in this episode, he literally isn't even there in that scene. Mm-hmm. So he feels like he has to step up and be there now, which
so
leads
instead
to
we
some
get
problems.
this great scene where it seems like Rhaenyra is like almost telling Daemon to like Daemon to get rid of like Laenor, and it seems like maybe this is the complexity that that they said the show was gonna be, where like no character is gonna be good, and then even better they trick you yet again, where they have this scene where
Spoiler
with the lover
alert.
where like Daemon basically goes and like makes a deal with like his like lover essentially,
Right.
and at first we think he's paying the lover to like just assassinate him and run and go over across the narrow sea, go to Essos and just not come back.
Essos seems like a nice place, by the way.
and so basically we get and they're like fighting in the room, like they go and fight in front of like a child like servant who's like in the house. They run and get like Corlys, and all they find is like a body like laying in the fire, and then his mother and like father think it's him, and then we get another shot on the beach of the guy going away. Another man throws his hood down, and it's Laenor.
Bald.
Laenor is bald, and like
shaved the golden
to hide
hair.
his white hair,
right.
And so he can go live his life. He doesn't have to hide his sexual orientation in Essos in certain cities. So like he's just going to live his life the way he wants, away from all the politics.
And that's the gift that she gives him.
And even like Rhaenyra, and this is after Rhaenyra tells him like it's a rare enough thing, like an honorable like good man, like which is you're rare, like it's an honorable good man got to survive and like leave and got a level, and Rhaenyra kind of granted that level of freedom.
So the question is, will we see him again?
Potentially, but like in the books, but again in the books
he's dead.
Dead.
Because he burned in the fire.
If you were to believe the textbook, he's dead. He was like, he doesn't die that way. In the book, he dies at like a fair, is what it's called. It's like Laenor is killed by his lover, the same character that like he runs away with in this movie at like a fairground or something.
Well, they changed the setup.
And then the rumor in the book is that the rumor was always that that Daemon paid to have him killed so that he could marry Rhaenyra. So there's a truth to it, and again I even love that they know that people will think of it as that they had him killed, but instead they do this action that will make everyone think, or at least the number of people think that they had him killed, when in reality they've given him freedom. So it's this two-sided coin of making themselves seem evil while they've actually done something that's really good, kind of, for this one character.
And Daemon was part of that, too.
And Daemon, and if anything, I think Rhaenyra was kind of going to be okay with maybe even just offered him.
But here's an interesting thing. Here's an interesting.
Daemon said like, I plead for. He almost asked for. Daemon said like, give him this, right?
Right.
Like give him freedom, or I forget exactly what he said, but Daemon said something.
Well, they fought side by side together.
Yes, exactly.
Like, so he respects the guy. He knew he was a good warrior, and he respects him, and actually he kind of likes the dude.
Yeah, that
because,
scene to me made it seem like Daemon like actually went out to bat for someone to give them a different solution.
There's a bunch of things on this show where
just adding even more to the complexity of Daemon's character.
There are things that take place off camera.
Oh yeah,
that are related to Daemon that we don't really know what happened.
Even Daemon and that happened in this episode. Daemon and Viserys talked for a bit in this episode, and we didn't get to hear most of what they said to one another.
So there's definitely like a cool storyline that may come back later, that a lot of what's going on with Daemon, like it's not always as it appears, which I kind of like the fact that a lot of this is being built off of like a textbook within the universe, and it could work itself out.
Like,
what was the other thing you had?
That's all. I
thought you said another thing about the ending.
Oh, I think that's all I can think of like at the moment. But either way, I loved that, and like even to me, like if you're a book reader and you like liked Fire and Blood, and I think I'll eventually read Fire and Blood, like fully, like, and you can't. It's not even like the Game of Thrones thing where like you can't even be spoiled, and you can't even like complain that your thing didn't happen because like it was like it's really cool. Like I think it's fascinating.
It is a genius for the showrunners of this show, because nobody can say, "Well, I saw in the book."
Like I don't know if I don't know if anyone's ever adapted something like that, where it's like this is a book from like a universe that this is like a textbook from like I can't imagine if like Hunger Games just did like here's like a Hunger Games book, but this is a textbook about the history of all the Hunger Games.
Isn't
but
the
it
Harry
might be
Potter
wrong.
thing though? Aren't the prequels for Harry Potter? Aren't those based on some other things?
I don't know
too?
if that's an in-universe thing or not, or if that's.
I don't think those were.
That
books.
might be an in-universe. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I don't know.
I think Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them is an in-universe thing, if I remember correctly, written by that character.
I think it's like a short book or something.
I'm not sure.
Like it's not.
Either way,
no, but I think what you
either
said.
way, I find this concept of that very fascinating.
I think you're right.
I don't think everyone's benefiting from that concept, but for me, someone who kind of knew about it, I think it's very cool.
What's great about the way we really benefit from it is because we don't have the people on Twitter saying, "Well, I read the book, and in the book, the blah blah blah."
Well,
blah.
there's just
And we
significantly
get
less
away
of those
from
people
that.
now.
They have the freedom to do whatever they want. Ultimately, as long as they kind of parallel the book a little bit to kind of, and I'm sure. And again, who's the executive producer of this show?
George R. R. Martin.
George R. R. Martin. So, like, I'm sure he's sitting down with him. He's like, "Well, that's not really what I meant. It's just it's in a textbook." So,
Yeah, exactly.
All right, what else? That's it?
I think that's all we got for today. Yeah.
Yeah.
For that, but again, we only got a couple episodes, 3 episodes left for this season. This was episode 7.
Yep.
Which it'll be interesting to see if the tradition of episode 9 remains. A tradition for this show. Obviously, if you're familiar with Game of Thrones, obviously the last couple seasons do this instead of episode 9. It's just the second to last episode. But the second to last episode of each season, usually it would be episode 9 for Game of Thrones, would always be the big event. So Battle of the Bastards, Battle of Blackwater, Red Wedding, all those type of stuff.
Maybe this season they'll
Tyrion's
have the Battle of the
trial?
Legitimate Children.
I don't know, like
Battle of the Legitimate Children, as
that's
opposed to Battle of the Bastards.
Battle of the Wall, if I remember correctly, Castle Black or whatever it's called. So like all the big battles. So I imagine
Like how you
that
just
there
skipped
will
over
be
my
an
terrible
equivalent.
joke.
I didn't. I zoned
You
out.
just
I'm
skipped right
sorry.
over it. I
What was
said
it?
the Battle of the Legitimate Children.
Shut up. Legitimate
No,
children.
not so much.
No, the illegitimate.
No, because they had the bastards, now the legitimate children.
All right, end the podcast.
We're gonna end the podcast now that we've just got canceled because of bad jokes. So, well, we'd like to thank you for listening and tuning into our podcast over here at Emerge. Again, if you're interested in doing your own podcast, you can hopefully see like we've got some really cool setups. If you're watching the video version of this on YouTube, please reach out to us on randomedia.com, and we're trying to build something here, and we appreciate all your support. Maybe we should have like a contest or something and give away things away. What do you think?
I don't got anything to give away.
Okay. we'll give away some Funko Pops.
I do have those. Actually.
You've got way too many of those. So
I haven't bought any in years though.
well, no, you haven't. You're into vinyl now. So
that is true.
all right. Well, thank you for listening to this last episode of Next of Kin, and then we'll be back next week with something, probably Andor.
Something. Andor, yeah, probably Andor. And
Or
more House of the
our
Dragon.
special episode,
Andor and House of the Dragon.
our
'cause,
special
like, we always
episode
talk about it
about
anyway,
the
so.
about Transformers.
Literally, me and my brother's entire week is just waiting for like House of the Dragon.
Yeah.
To, like to come back around.
Yep.
That's what it feels like. The entire week feels like, yeah, it's coming.
And
Only a
She-Hulk.
couple days away.
And She-Hulk.
Oh yeah, we'll be right on that next week.
We're moving right
Actually, to
off
be
of that.
fair, this recent episode of She-Hulk was that this week or
I don't
What
want
was
to
the
talk
most
about
recent
She-Hulk
episode
right
of
now.
She-Hulk?
We're gonna wrap it up.
was that
right
the
now.
Guru
No, you
therapy
missed
episode?
one.
Or did I miss one?
You missed one.
Did I?
I don't know. No, the Guru one is one. That's fine. We're
it
not
the
going to
last
talk
one?
about She-Hulk.
I don't know. It was
We're
fine.
out.
It wasn't the worst thing in the world.
Well, sometimes it is the worst thing. in
Either
the
way,
world.
sometimes it is though. You're correct.
Sometimes it is. All right, we'll be back. Steve, take care.